music town, Detroit. Thanks for coming out for a discussion with Rick Worshey Jr., also known as White Boy Rick, and our Charlie Langton. Appreciate you listening to WWJ News Radio 950. We also want to thank the Metro Detroit Ram truck dealers. So once again, Charlie and Rick.
Thank you, Rob. So you know what I want to do? I just want to have a little conversation with Rick Worshey here. And you know what, you guys, if you have a question, I know I've written some on the cards here, and they're good. But I think we can probably go out there. You all right with that? Let's just hang a little bit. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm okay. Have you been to this place? Have you been to Comerica Park?
I have not. I've been to every other stadium but Comerica, but I'm going soon.
How come you haven't been to Comerica Park?
I didn't make it last year. COVID, everything going on, the mask thing. But this year I'm going.
What do you think of Detroit now? By the way, your car's right over there. Don't worry. Okay, don't worry.
I can see it.
Don't worry.
See it. Listen, I love what's going on in Detroit. The rebuilding, I don't ever think it'll be the same because I don't think the big three will ever be the same. I don't think people are going to move here for jobs. I just wish what I see going on in downtown was going on a little more in the neighborhoods.
Have you been back to the east side of Detroit?
Absolutely.
You go there often?
With Fox, too.
I know, but often. Do you go back?
I drive through there all the time. I get yelled at by my other half for driving through there. I go look at my grandmother's house and I reminisce a little bit. I ride around.
By yourself?
By myself.
Why do you like going back 30 plus years?
The memories, you know what I mean? The things that I missed, my grandparents. So for me, it's an emotional trip. So I've done it with friends, but sometimes I just get off 94 at Harpo's and I do it by myself.
Did you have a good life growing up, do you think?
As a kid, yeah. My grandparents both worked at Chrysler 40 years. My dad was, building in the disco era. He was building a lot of the nightclubs that were around. So my younger years, I played a lot of baseball, went to church every Sunday. So, yeah, I think I had a pretty normal childhood up until about 13 years old.
What changed now in the east side of Detroit where you grew up and right now?
The blight. You go through and some blocks have one house. Like, infrastructure-wise, that makes no sense. Like, it would make more sense for the city to buy that house and, we're running power and water and everything to one house on a block. Makes no sense.
When you were growing up, did you think someday you would be something? What did you think you'd be?
I wanted to be a baseball player, Charlie, of course.
Is that true?
Absolutely, 100%.
Did you go down to Tiger Stadium?
100%. My kid I used to play baseball with, his uncle was Gates Brown, so we would get to go in the locker room, and I had quite the experience as a kid at Tiger Stadium. So I drive down to Michigan and Trumbull, too, to look around.
So you were down here. You know Detroit.
Yeah.
What about when you go drive around? What do you think about today? Listen, 14, I think everybody knows your story here. We don't have to get into that too much. But let me ask you this, though. There's been a movie. There's been documentaries.
I've never watched a movie, guys.
You didn't watch the Matthew McConaughey movie?
Never.
Why not? It's on every day.
A dear friend of mine, who now is the biggest writer in Hollywood, who wrote Joker, who me and you have had conversations with. He wrote 8 Mile, The Fighter. Me and Scott probably worked 300 hours together. And that's how we became friends. And Scott was removed or quit the project, and it kind of took a left turn, and that's when I left.
But the movie, though, it's a movie about. Did you consult on it?
With Scott Silver for.
But you didn't see the movie after it was made, the Matthew McConaughey one?
No, never watched.
Have you ever talked to him?
McConaughey?
Yeah.
Visited me in prison. Very nice guy.
Is he upset you didn't see the movie?
I highly doubt it. He got paid.
You didn't get anything for that movie, did you?
No, I didn't take $1.
Should you have?
I'm all right.
Is what has been portrayed in the media accurate?
No.
Generalizing, what's not accurate?
Most of what was portrayed in the media for 30 years, Charlie. I think me and you have had this conversation.
Yeah, but they want to know about that, though.
I was never a drug kingpin. I sold drugs. I sold a lot of drugs as a kid. So, am I proud of that? Absolutely not.
But I don't want to. But before you became the informant, you didn't sell any drugs, did you?
None.
And you're upset when people say you're a drug kingpin, aren't you?
Listen, Pablo Escobar's a drug kingpin. El Chapo's a drug kingpin. Kids from the inner city of Detroit, Big Meech is not a drug kingpin. He doesn't deserve 27 years in prison. His brother's home doing positive things. People don't deserve 30 years for nonviolent crimes. We give child molesters and child killers less than we give nonviolent drug offenders. That I have a problem with.
What about but when you, is the media, well, they're glorifying you, I guess, in some ways or sense there. But what is different also about that time? The arrest, the age, that's all true, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Your relationship with your father, true?
In what regards?
He sold guns. Did he work with the FBI? They came for him or the
Absolutely false. 100% a lie. 100% a lie. And I can't go into it much, but I'm working on a new documentary, you know, and the person that used to give me the guns to sell, who was a law enforcement officer, appears in my documentary, who never went to prison, who's a retired state trooper.
When's that documentary coming out?
We just signed a deal with 51 Mines, so we're going to see when it comes out.
Is it going to be very different than, I mean, and you're going to have some say in it, obviously.
Absolutely.
Are
It's
you
from
gonna
the
be in
day
it?
I walked out of prison.
Are you going to be in it?
100%. I hope so.
Jeez. Do you trust the cops?
I trust the good cops. I got pulled over yesterday.
For what?
My blinker wasn't working. And I just left the car dealership. And I see that I'm on the phone. True story. I'm on the phone. I'm like, shit, troopers behind me. So I immediately call my girl, Michelle, God bless her. Put her on speakerphone. I'm like, listen, shut up. I'm being pulled over. Just listen. First thing I say is, officer, why are you pulling me over? He's like, you going to let me talk? I let him talk. He told me my blinker was out. I went back to the dealership. $75 later, whatever it was, I got a blinker put in, and I was good to go.
No ticket?
No ticket.
Did he know who you were?
Absolutely. He asked me my name. I told him. He goes, what's your other name? I said, if you have to ask, you already know.
What city?
Very nice. I was in Harrison Town. I actually ended up in the parking lot of Pleasantries.
That's why he pulled you over.
That's where, well, I got off the freeway and made sure I was where someone can see.
That's good. When cops, are you afraid of
Listen,
cops?
no, absolutely
What was you, no,
not.
seriously, when you got pulled over, were you worried?
I'll be honest, the first time I got pulled over, I was in the car with Michelle, and I was speeding, 94, almost exact same spot right by Gibraltar.
We've all done that.
Coming from down here, and she didn't know this, but my heart was, I'll bet you my heart rate was 120, and he pulled me over, talked, I was respectful, he came back, he said, I'm gonna write you a 1 to 5 over. I said I was speeding, and that was it. Very nice, very respectful. Every time I've been pulled over, very nice, very respectful.
Are you that bad a driver?
I've only been pulled over 3 times, but that's not bad in 24 months.
Not too bad. It's not too bad.
21
Not too
months.
bad. Not too bad. So you got a documentary coming out. I just cut a deal. It's going to be different. All right. I want to talk about, we're going to go back and jump around a little bit here. Pleasantries. You've got a new venture. You're selling weed.
My brand, absolutely. The Eighth by White Boy Rick.
What's the eighth? What's the eighth?
The Eighth is not an eighth of weed. It's your Eighth Amendment, which is how I got out of prison. So the brand means a lot to me. It's based on the ban on cruel and unusual punishment, excessive fines. So on every bag or every shirt, if you don't smoke weed, you can rock a shirt, and it represents your Eighth Amendment. We all should know our constitutional rights. I would ask how many people in here know their Eighth Amendment. Not many.
Not many.
So on every bag of weed that I sell, with my brand, your Eighth Amendment's printed on the bag.
Do you do a lot of weed?
Do I smoke weed?
Yeah.
I don't smoke weed. I don't even drink. Every now and then.
How can you sell it then?
I didn't do cocaine. I sold cocaine. Like, I don't really like things that alter my mind. Like, on New Year's, I had a couple drinks, but my friends don't realize I don't do that. So 2 shots of 1942, and I'm buzzing pretty good. So,
So you're doing so what else are you doing now?
working on some prison advocacy stuff, trying to help people when they're released. Tracy Cowan, I think you know, she just did 19 years. I was able to help secure her release for a nonviolent crime. 60-year-old woman sitting in our prison system almost 20 years for a nonviolent crime.
What has to be reformed in the prison system?
We talk a lot about wrongful incarceration, but if you're overly incarcerated, if you deserve 2 years in prison and we give you 10 years, technically for those 8 years, you're wrongfully incarcerated. So I think the overly incarcerated part needs to be addressed first and foremost. And the people that have been there for decades, or the people there for cannabis crimes, you know, cannabis crimes, I think we should release all of them. The state legalized it, and I don't think anybody belongs in prison for cannabis.
In Michigan, we don't have a good time system. And in Michigan, so you get sentenced for whatever the sentence is, you get 2 sentences. Say it's 5 to 10 years.
Absolutely.
10 would be the maximum, and 5 would be the sentence. So you have to do minimum of 5, and then you're at the parole board at their whim to get you out. You don't like that system, do you?
I just think that good time, and I'm working on a good time initiative that's going on now. I just think that bringing back good time, a lot of the surrounding states already have it. We're one of the few that doesn't. So federal prison, you can earn 15% off your sentence. So if you give someone to work for while you're in there, good time's not a bad thing because you have to earn it. It's not given to you. So we get a return on our investment. We send someone to prison, and they can sit there and they can be the biggest jerk in the world. They don't have to get an education, but all of our tax dollars are paying for it. So if we can send that person there and say, if you do X, Y, and Z, we're going to let you earn 15% or 20% off of your sentence. We get back a better person in society. We get back a person that wants to do positive things when they get out.
Do you think that there are people in prison right now who, because we don't have good time in Michigan, that are just stagnating?
100%. I know people that are in prison because they don't have an address to go to.
So they'd rather stay in prison?
Yes.
How many people have an education in prison? At least graduate from high school?
I'm going to say 20%.
80% of the people in prison they did not complete high school.
The vast majority of people in prison have never completed their high school education, and 50 to 60% of them are out of our foster care system.
Why is that, do you think? Is that a problem?
I think it's a huge problem. You know, kids don't realize when they age out of foster care, you're entitled to a 2-year education. There's other things you can do, but a lot of them you kick out the door and you say, go fend for yourself in the world. And I've met tons of those kids. And most of the girls have been sexually abused. And most of the boys, you know, a lot of them I've met that, you know, they end up in there for murder or something because someone tried to sexually assault them as a kid or as a young man.
You dropped out of school in the what grade?
9th grade.
9th grade. Do you regret dropping out of school?
Absolutely.
At the time, though, you dropped out because your life was good.
I dropped out because I was shot. So at the time I got shot, I had a colostomy bag, and the school didn't want me in school for safety reasons because if I got hurt, I had the colostomy bag on, or if I got in a fight. So really, I had no way to go to school. And when I went to prison, it was one of the first things I did. A gentleman by the name of Ken Jackson, I'll never forget him. He had a group called Chapter 21, and he had a brand new trailer all set up with Apple computers. And you have to remember, this is 1988. I had never saw a computer. And I walked in, and I see this trailer, and you know, I'll forever be grateful to him, because I was in another classroom where we were shooting dice, playing cards, listening to our cassette players, and he plucked me out of there, and he took me and he said, "You're going to get an education." And he helped me a lot. And from his class, I went on to take some college courses.
You can get in prison, though, but, I mean, if you don't go to classes, what do?
You waste your time. You learn every rap song there is. You watch TV. You might play sports. You waste your time.
If someone admittedly breaks the law, what should they do? Is there a better way to do it?
Listen, if you break the law, there's got to be consequences. But that consequence doesn't necessarily mean the first time we put you in prison. There's a lot of people that get caught with drugs that are drug users. Those people need treatment. They don't need incarceration. If you're out here, listen, I'm the first one to say what's going on now when they're running in these Louis Vuitton stores and robbing these stores, or they're robbing people on Rodeo, or California's telling you, don't wear your watch. I don't want to go to a state where they tell me don't wear my watch. I want to go to a state where they say we're going to arrest the people that are stealing the watches.
You sold drugs to people. We know that drugs, cocaine, can kill, they can hurt people, mess their lives up. Do you regret that part of it?
Listen, yeah, of course I regret it, but I also know that everybody I sold drugs to, they made a choice to do those drugs. If you rape someone, that lady didn't choose to be raped. If you murder someone, that person didn't choose to be murdered. If you do a gram of cocaine, you chose to do that gram of cocaine.
Should cocaine be legal?
Absolutely not.
Why?
It's an addictive drug.
So is pot, isn't it?
No.
Cigarettes?
Cigarettes are nicotine's the most addictive drug in the world.
Ban them?
Excuse me?
Ban cigarettes?
It's a choice. My ma has COPD, smokes to this day. She's addicted to nicotine. Now they're talking about banning menthol. So you tell me if it's a good drug or a bad drug. We also have an opioid crisis in this country that everybody thinks if a doctor prescribed you a drug, it's okay to take. Me, I think pharmaceutical companies are drug cartels.
Should they be sued? There are.
Absolutely.
In a drug cartel?
I think they should be sued. I think they should be incarcerated. I think a lot of things about pharmaceutical companies. Over 500,000 deaths since '99. We've sent one person to prison. That's a fact from pharmaceutical companies. One person we've sent to prison. Go in a ghetto, go in an inner city, and tell me how many kids we sent to prison for an ounce of crack cocaine. For 1 ounce of crack. Go tell me how many kids we incarcerated for 20 years.
Do you think that it's poverty is really maybe the root of some of this? Why people go to prison for so long and others do not?
It's 100%. Go see a kid that's arrested in Birmingham and go look at a kid that's arrested in Detroit for the same crime, and I'll kiss your ass if they got the same sentence.
How can we fix that?
It's sentencing disparity. It's the families, it's the judges. You know, I'm a true believer that if you commit the same crime, you deserve the same sentence. But I don't know if we'll ever see that in our lifetime.
Would you like to be a judge?
No.
Why not?
Listen, a judge has a hard job. Being fair and impartial, I think judges have an extremely hard job because, of course, their first job is to protect society. But at the same time they're protecting society, you have to be fair, and you have to take, this young man's life, how he was brought up under advisement and say, maybe that played a part in what this young man did. And that's a hard thing for a judge to do. And I think some of them get it right. I've got to talk to a lot of them. I've got to talk to some Supreme Court judges. And I see the shift, but I haven't saw the shift.
The shift in thinking about sentencing?
Yeah.
That's a big deal for you, sentencing.
Absolutely.
Did you get a fair trial?
100% no.
without getting into the documentary part of it, what was the worst part, the most unfair about your trial?
First, I think that I was tried as an adult at 17 years old, which we no longer allow in the state of Michigan. A lot of things that we allowed back then are not allowed now. I think I told you I had a friend, he was 16 years old. We were placed in the worst prison in Michigan, or one of them, as kids. My first day there, I told Justin Timberlake when I helped him with Palmer, I saw a kid get stabbed repeatedly in the neck. No child should be exposed to that, at least for a nonviolent crime. And my friend, Kevin, who's like a brother to me to this day, because of that bond that we have of surviving that. Kevin's a multimillionaire and have 700 employees under him. So the things that you did as a child don't define who you are. And Kevin was given a second chance after 16 years. I did twice the time that Kevin did.
The lawyer that you had, did he do a good job? Could he have done better? Circumstances?
We're not going to go into that. Like, I don't think I got a fair trial. I don't think I got a fair shake.
Do you think about that time frame, why you were in prison?
Every day you think about it. You think about more things in prison. You have to remember, out here there's not enough hours in a day, and in there's too many hours in a day. So I did 16 months straight in solitary confinement. So, and mind you, there's laws that say you shouldn't do over 30 days. And I did 16 months straight in solitary.
Why?
They said I was a danger, that I was this, that I was that. All bullshit.
How old were you?
This was later in my life. So I was my late 40s.
And you did 16 months solitary confinement?
You're going to see the lady that took care of me for those 6 months, who smuggled me reading material and gave me other things, extra food. Or I went down to 160 pounds.
Are you bitter? Be honest.
Listen, if I sat here and told you 100% no, I'd be lying. But I don't look back. I look forward. I can't change yesterday, but tomorrow and today and what we're talking about now, it's up to me. So I can't change it.
Can you get anything in prison? Can you get drugs? Can you get reading material? Can you get whatever you want?
You can get anything in prison if you have the money. You can get a cell phone if you know the right person. And the right person's not an inmate. So you figure that out.
There's corruption with administration.
There's corruption everywhere.
Today, though, do you sleep can you sleep? Sometimes do you
I
have
don't
dreams?
sleep well. No, I don't sleep well at all. I'll be honest. Listen.
Try some of that weed. It might help you.
Maybe. An edible. Maybe an edible
Maybe
to
an
help
edible.
you sleep. But what I went through in life, I didn't have a normal life, Charlie. So for me, trying to be normal now is what's important. You know, the little things that I do that everybody in this room might take for granted, riding around the city and looking, I enjoy that. I told you earlier when you asked me how I'm doing, I said every day I'm breathing fresh air, I'm doing great. Like free air.
Do you like the name White Boy Rick?
White Boy Rick's a reference. It's not my name. It's you know, when you're describing someone, people might say Dwayne Johnson, or they might say, you know, people might say, who's Dwayne Johnson? The Rock. You know what I mean? So a lot of people say Rick Wershey, like that cop yesterday. What's your other name? He knew it, so it's more of a reference. You know what I mean?
But you're okay with it.
I'm not ashamed of it. No. It's my brand. It's the 8th by White Boy Rick. It's who I am. I'm not ashamed of it by any means.
Yeah. This is fascinating. Questions? If anybody have any questions, why don't we? You know what? Can I? Hold on. Let's get some. Hold on. I think I can come around here. Hold on here. Let's get everybody. Stand up here. Come on. Come on. All right. Go ahead. What's your question?
My question is, during your time in prison, do you feel that you knew too much that you'd reveal that kept you in there? I don't know if you could answer that based on your...
I feel like I was kept in prison because I told on corruption within this city. That's why I feel like I did 32 years or 7 months in prison. I don't feel like it was for the crime I committed.
Why, if you knew about it, why'd you just keep quiet?
Because I was young and dumb.
Who has another question? Come here, John. Come on. Come on. I remember your name. I met John. I met you on the street over here. He was so excited to meet you. There he is.
Yeah. This isn't really a question. It's more like how I feel inside about your life and stuff. You know, I believe life comes in full circle and stuff, and you went through a lot of hell. And I think it was a complete shit. Probably everybody else around thinks that too. Anyways, enough of that. But I just want to say you've came a long way. I don't know you personally at all, but your story I've known about since I was a kid. My dad followed you and stuff and that, and what I remember. Anyway, but life's a full circle, and you got busted for your drugs and stuff, but you know what? You're selling your brand now, and you're doing probably pretty good, and I give you a lot of credit for doing that. And I really, good for you, man. Sky's the limit for you. And what would you tell society right now, in your own words, what would you preach to young kids on the street that are selling drugs now? What would you tell them to make them not get foiled up?
I'll answer that question.
Sure.
I was 17 years old, and I'll never forget, a narcotics officer told me, he said, every day you have to get lucky. I only have to get lucky once. So think about those odds. You gamble? I gamble a little bit. I wouldn't gamble on anything where I have a 1 in 365 chance at the casino, or just think about if you get a 10-year run in drugs, you have to get lucky 3,650 days. That cop's got to get lucky one day. You're gonna lose. You're gonna fail. You're gonna. The odds are horribly stacked against you, and one of the things that I think that isn't preached enough with kids is education. And I just think your life is so much easier if you get that second part of your education. 3 months later, I got in trouble after him telling me that. 3 months. 90 days later.
Question.
With your experience with law enforcement, how do you feel about the current climate that we're in where people are protesting against police brutality?
The police brutality goes to your 8th Amendment. It means no one can put a knee on your neck. It means that you're supposed to be treated with dignity and respect. Everybody in here, we all pay police officers salary. But I say that in saying that is we also have to respect the police and obey them. Because that same police officer might save your life one day. So I think they have a hard job to do too. I wouldn't be a cop for any amount of money in the world. Because at the end of the day, he wants to go home too. And there's a lot of police that overdo their job. There's a lot of police, some that I'm friends with now, that just do their job. And they're good people. That's just a profession that they chose. But the ones that are abusive, I think they should be held accountable. I think they should be in prison.
When you see the cop in Grand Rapids, the situation ordered to pulled over for a license plate violation, similar to what you were pulled over for. And the cop said, get in the car. He didn't. He ran, tackle, ultimately shot in the back of the head. What do you think about that?
It's tragic. That man lost his life. Like, you don't take someone's life for a traffic stop. Like, even if he ran, or you have his car, you have his plate number, like, should you really get in a life and death scuffle because of a traffic stop? I mean, my heart goes out to him and his family.
Let me get, anybody else? Anybody else? Go ahead.
Do you ever miss like the old aspects of your life, more like the illegal side?
No, bro.
That's a
are
good
the
question.
Those are the bad old days, bro. Like, being a criminal is not easy, bro. It's hard. Like, I'm telling you, I love getting up now and doing what I do. And back then, it was stressful, man. Every day you're a criminal, it's stressful. You don't want to go to jail. Every day I knew I could go to jail. So ultimately, I ended up doing most of my life. But no, I enjoy my life now. I like doing positive things, good things, trying to help people do good things for the community.
Good question. I like that. Come on, one more time. Let's do it.
So you said you could get cell phones in prison. What was the first thing when you got out of prison, like in terms of technology that had changed that you thought was beneficial to you that you know adapted to? Like you said, cell phones, but what
I have
other?
to say a cell phone.
Yeah.
I was in a halfway house in Florida, and I'll never forget, I got an iPhone 8. I didn't know what the hell to do with it. I had never, when I was home, I had a cell phone. You dialed the number, you push send, and you could talk. You couldn't even text. So I grabbed this young kid that I was in the halfway house with, and I said, "You're going to take me to school." And little by little, he taught me, and I still don't know a lot of things this thing does. You probably don't either. But I can hold my own with it. So technology changed the most, though. Even in my car, I can't understand a lot of the things to do in a car.
Do you like rap music?
Love it.
Thought you didn't like it.
I didn't say I didn't like it. I love it. I love rap, rock, Kid Rock, Eminem, Detroit icons.
Is Eminem? Are you doing something with Eminem?
No, he played me in BMF.
Yeah. You didn't consult. You didn't consult or anything.
No, I talked to 50 Cent about it. Great guy.
Yeah.
Love him.
Yeah.
Love his story. Love where he came from. Love to see a kid from the streets where he is today in a position of power.
He's a good guy, isn't he?
Great guy.
Let me throw some other names at you, okay? Mike Duggan.
Mayor of Detroit.
It's not a quiz.
Oh,
What do you think? Do you know him?
don't know him at all. Never met the man in my life. We'll leave that at that.
Coleman Young. The mayor, Coleman Young.
He was the mayor of Detroit.
Come on, no, come on. You have a history. You know him for sure.
I know his family. It's history, Charlie.
All right. How about Governor Whitmer? You just met her the other day?
Just met her. I greatly appreciate what she did for Tracy Cowan and believing in me and the work that I did to help Tracy be released from prison. And I think Tracy will be an example of the type of people that she should continue to release from prison.
Do you, some of the other governors that could have commuted your sentence, do you ever try to do that? Or do you think the governors in the past, which would be Granholm and Snyder, should they have commuted your sentence?
I think if they would have looked at the truth of really what happened behind my sentence, yeah. I don't think Governor Granholm ever looked into what really happened in my case. So that being said, I don't have much respect for her.
How about the FBI in general?
I just met an FBI agent the other night. Very nice guy.
There was one question here that I thought was really good.
I met him at the NAACP thing downtown. I don't want anybody to think I'm talking to the FBI.
No, I forget that. Did you have fun at the NAACP?
It was a great event. Great for the city, great cause. I mean, the people there were great. They turned out. It was a good event.
Would you ever want to run for elective office?
Absolutely not.
Why?
Again, it's a hard job.
Yeah.
Listen, you're never going to make everybody happy. Your goal is to make 51% of the people happy so you could get reelected. I don't want 1% of the people to like me, and the other 49 hate me, so public office is not for me.
And besides your other ventures, we've talked a little bit about them, though.
Team Wellness out of Detroit, great organization I work with.
Yeah, talk about that.
Mental health, fully integrated healthcare system. We're working on some prison reentry things in the foster care system. Great team, great organization. Proud to be part of it.
Have you talked to Kwame Kilpatrick?
Absolutely. Was at
Sin-
his wedding.
Oh, you met, where did you first meet him?
Prison.
How did that happen?
Somehow he ended up in prison. I don't know what he did or how or whatever. I just know he ended up in prison. I met him. I didn't think he deserved 27 years. Some people will probably hate me for that. I don't think anybody deserves 27 years for a nonviolent crime. My opinion, I hope you guys respect it. I respect everybody's.
You gave him some advice, though, didn't you?
Absolutely.
In prison.
Absolutely.
What was the advice?
Listen, I looked out for him the best that I could, the way I would want to look out for me. I try and do for people now as a free man what I wish people had done for me back then. I was already seasoned, had been in prison for quite some time, so I just tried to give him good advice, how to go about his life. I gave him a few things, had conversations with him, and I was glad that he was released. That's someone coming from my standpoint might not have. I have different outlooks on people. When you say 27 years, I know the effect that would have had on his children, his mother, and his father. He would have never got to see them, never got to bury them whenever they passed. I didn't get to bury my father. It's one of the things that I resent gratefully. So I'm just grateful that the system worked for him the way it doesn't work for others. I think 7 years was a just sentence if he did the things that they say he did.
Oh, yeah, trial. He lost it. The trial.
Doesn't mean because you go to trial
Not
that you
true.
did everything you said.
I agree.
I know murderers that went to trial that were acquitted.
How many people do you think in prison are there wrongfully? Percentage.
Wrongfully or over-sentenced?
Wrongfully first.
Probably 10%,
And what about over-sentenced?
probably 60%,
60%.
100%. 60%.
No, 60%, 100%.
60% of the people in prison are over-sentenced. Listen, I met him in prison. Let me get that out of the way so you guys don't think this was an associate of mine on the street. But there's an individual that was indicted in Detroit in 1988 for 7 tons of cocaine. 7 tons of cocaine. You can look it up. He received an 11-year sentence. Nobody knows his name. But me and my friends that were kids, including the Chambers brothers, including Demetrius Holloway and Maserati Rick and BMF, we were all called drug kingpins. But Teresa Dominguez, if you look in the book, The Accountant by Roberto Escobar, Pablo Escobar's brother, will tell you that Tito was his main smuggler, never lost a load. His indictment was 7 tons in the city of Detroit. He received an 11-year sentence.
How much is 7 tons worth on the streets? About.
Well, a ton is approximately 1,000 kilos. So let's just say, just think about that. Just say at $20,000 a kilo, it's $20 million. So $140 million wholesale?
You had 7, allegedly, right?
Kilos.
Kilos,
7.
7.
He had 7,000.
Right. Yeah.
He got 11 years. I got life without parole as a juvenile. We call that justice in America. We call that the most humane system in the world. We give more juveniles life for than any other country in the world, but we say we're the most humane country. We're not.
Where'd you get a sense of humor from? You have a pretty good sense of humor.
Sometimes you laugh not to cry, Charlie. You joke to escape reality. And I tell you, whenever I talk to you, I tell you I'm blessed. And I truly believe everybody in this room went on a different journey in life. Some reason, that was the journey God sent me on. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm proud of it. I'm proud that I'm in the room with everyone. And more than anything, the people that I truly call my friends in my circle, I love them. And there's people that I've met just since I've been home that care more about me than people I've known my whole life. I got a phone call today from the owner of Bella Piatti, Nino Cordero. And Nino's kind of like a father figure to me, and he's partners with Mark Wahlberg, and he's worth millions of dollars. And he called me, and he's in broken Italian. He said, Ricky, you must be making too much money. You don't call me. You don't come see me. You know, and I love him for that. You know what I mean? He knew my dad, who my dad really was. And Nino will be in my new documentary. But, you know, there's so many people that I've met since I've been out that I think are genuine and care about the journey that I went on. And I'm proud of it. I'm not ashamed of anything.
Ricky was really the name you were known by, right?
As a kid,
As a kid.
Rick, when I was a little older.
If you could snap your fingers, what would you change?
I never would have told on corruption in Detroit. I never would have did the police corruption thing.
You thought you were doing a good job, though, at the time.
You asked me the one thing, that's what I wouldn't have done.
You kept quiet.
100%. I think I did 17 extra years in prison because I told on corruption in this city. And people can say I'm right or I'm wrong, but I'll go to my deathbed believing that I did 17 years because I told on police corruption.
Was it worth it?
No.
But if you have information about the corrupt cops, give it to the authorities. Turn them in.
Would you give information if you knew you were going to do 17 years?
No.
If you never
100%.
If you thought you'd see your father again in life, would you do that?
I would not.
Neither would I. But hindsight's 20/20.
Looking forward.
That's it. Just keep moving forward. I don't look back.
Thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun. I really appreciate how open you were.
Thanks for having me.
I really do. Rick Warshie, everybody. Thank you.
It's tough. Some of the things you talk about. My dad's a soft spot for me, Merle.
I know. I know that. I remember that. I remember reading about you, and I knew that your dad, you were close. And it's got to be hard when you were there because you don't get real information.
It is what it is.
He's got to be. What do you think he's thinking of you right now? He's got to be proud, don't you think?
Oh, yeah.
But no one tells you that, though.
We're all proud of you, man. Absolutely, brother.
Thank you. Man.
Where's that weed anyway? All right. Thank you.
No, you're welcome, Charlie. Thanks for having me. Everybody who came, thank you. I appreciate the support more than you know. It means a lot. I love the city. I'm going to continue trying to do good things for the city, for the people of the city. And as I tell people all the time, I just do what I wish people had done for me when I was a kid. So I can't help everybody, but I told Charlie, someone called me from prison the other day I knew, and he couldn't pay his water bill. And it was like 3 months, and I paid the water bill. I can't pay everybody's water bill, but I try and do what I can for people. So I hope all you guys will do what you can for people.
One more time.